Welcome to the Empowerment Zone with Ramona Houston, where we zone in on Black and Brown relations and our journey to empowering our communities.
Hello, welcome to the Empowerment Zone. I am your host, Ramona Houston, and today we have Dr. Maria Hernandez as our speaker today, and she's going to tell us all about LatinaVIDA. Dr. Maria Hernandez is a thought leader in health equity and pay for success initiatives designed to address the upstream social determinants of health among vulnerable populations. As president of Impact for Health, a wholly owned subsidiary of Inclusion Inc., Maria currently leads the Alameda County Pay for Success Asthma Initiative, which is testing the feasibility of reducing asthma related to emergencies using health education and proven home-based environmental interventions for children. Maria's groundbreaking efforts in Pay for Success initiatives led her to attend the White House's Office of Social Innovation and Civic Engagement, convening on expanding the use of Pay for Success initiatives. But today, she is talking to us about LatinaVIDA. She is a first-generation Latina born and raised in Southern California, and she is fluent in Spanish. Her commitment to empowering the next generation of Latina executives inspired her to co-found LatinaVIDA, a nonprofit providing educational forums for career-minded Latinas throughout the nation. And interestingly, she and her husband, Jim Perserno, are sailors and have recently been testing their navigation skills in the Caribbean. Welcome, Dr. Hernandez. Good to have you here today.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Houston.
And one thing that Dr. Hernandez and I found out when we met is that we're both graduates in terms of receiving our doctorate degrees from the University of Texas at Austin.
That's right. Hook 'em horns, right?
Well, it's great to have you. So tell us a little bit about your background, being a California turned Tejana, turned back to California. So tell us about your little trajectory, please.
It's been a journey, Ramona. It's been a journey. So, yeah, I actually grew up in Southern Cal. I'm the daughter of immigrants. My parents came from Monterrey, Mexico. And I grew up really in that remarkable time in our country as many people of color were advocating for opportunity and equal rights. And so I am one of the children that benefited from the hard work of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, Martin Luther King, and all of the great ones. So I stand on those shoulders, and I'm really proud of that. Honestly, growing up, I had a very traditional, family where my mom and dad thought, why are you worried about school? You're going to get married. Someone's going to take care of you. You don't need to do all of that. And I wanted to follow kind of the footsteps of my older brothers who had gone on to college. And one of my brothers went on to medical school. And so when it was my turn, I have to say that deciding to go for a PhD was certainly an adventure, but I really credit my parents for letting me go. A lot of Latinas have difficulty with that. You often hear, growing up, no te vas hasta que te cases, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to stay until you're married. And fortunately, they let go. And so I went to Texas, and it was a good experience. But at that time, I was there in 1980, 1985. I really didn't feel I could stay. And my husband at that time had an opportunity to move to Northern California. And so I've been here now the longest period of my life. But the work that I do, first off, starting in academia and then transitioning to my own consulting practice has been, just a wonderful journey. But all through that, and I know that you and I will relate to this, All through that time, I kept seeing that I was the only one in the room, or the only one on the panel, or the only one that had been hired in a number of circumstances. And about 5 years ago is when two other friends of mine were sitting at the kitchen table where all kinds of good trouble starts, as John Lewis would say. And we said, what do we do? How do we make a difference? And so LatinaVIDA was born. And all that we wanted to do was to be able to share with the next generation what are some of those secrets, if you will, to navigate your career inside a corporate environment or inside a large institution, and share that wisdom. So that is how LatinaVIDA came about, and that's what we are still trying to do.
So vida means life in Spanish, but in this respect, vida is an acronym for visibility, identity, determination, and action. And as you all state, you are a leadership development program for people of color and underrepresented talent. And you have what you call the Poder program. Could you talk a little bit about Poder? And Poder is also an acronym. Poder in Spanish, ¿qué quiere decir?
Power.
Yes, able to make some power, right? His plan, own, drive excellent results. That's what
Right.
Poder means.
Right.
And so could you tell us a little bit about your Poder program and the other programs you have at LatinaVIDA and what you all do in terms of preparing Latinas specifically for senior executive roles?
Yeah, so we first started off with just offering a workshop, which is called Rise to the Top. And that workshop covers those themes of visibility, identity, determination, and action. In essence, what we said from the word go is let's talk about what it takes to navigate to the corporate C-suite, right? And first, of course, you need to be visible to the right people at the right time for the right reasons, right? So having a sponsor, making sure that you have the identity of being a leader is another factor. If you don't think of yourself as a leader, other people will not. So that identity is key. And determination, ganas, the tenacity to keep going is indeed another factor. And last but not least is the right actions. So, no one talked to us at a young age about how do you map out a career? What are those steps that you need to take to make it into that specific, C-suite or, get full tenureship for a professorship, whatever your path may be. And so Rise to the Top was covering these topics. And then as we started to see what really happens inside thoughtful organizations that want to advance underrepresented individuals, we needed to add some other factors to the program. So in addition to the workshop, Poder includes a series of webinars after the workshop, and we partner with the company involved to make sure the participants have a sponsor that they're going to meet with. So a lot of people don't understand the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. So let's talk about that. I've had many mentors who are really wonderful souls, wise, ahead in their career, further along, who tell you, hey, here's what it takes to do this, or you might want to practice more of your public speaking, or hey, here's how you deal with so-and-so that's, maybe giving you a hard time. We need mentors. We also need a sponsor. And a sponsor is someone who advocates for you, even when you're not in the room, someone who is actively looking for your next opportunity and promotes you. Someone who says, hey, Bill, Maria is ready for that next role that you were thinking about, or Ramona has all that it takes to do that one project. Why don't you give that to her so that she can shine a little bit and let's see her advance, right? I think that's now sponsorship is now kind of a fancy word for the old boy network. You know that this was what was going on all the time, right? How did that guy get into that role? Well, he got help. Somebody helped him, right? Somebody pointed out that he was ready. So we now have this term sponsorship. And we added that because all the data shows that if you have a sponsor, you will advance faster. And that has to be clear to anyone inside an organization that wants to develop their fullest potential.
I totally agree with you on the need for sponsors. And a lot of people in corporate America embrace these terms, mentor and sponsor. And so I think it's very important that people outside of corporate America begin to see the importance of both of these two advocacy roles in your life. Mentor being somebody that's really takes an interest in you, helps you with your strengths and helps you with your weaknesses, right? And just really, really guides your professional path. But sponsors, man, what a great advocate to have. Because many times when decisions are made and people are at the table, it's about who you know and who can advocate for you. The reason that that men get in many of these positions is, as you stated, because the good old boy network, where somebody was at the table and said, hey, I know Bob. Bob is a great guy. He might not have the experience we want, but he has this, and this skill that I think he can succeed in this job. Let's consider Bob, you know?
Absolutely.
And so women need sponsors at the table to be able to advocate, to say, yes, she can do it. And a lot of times, as you know, with women, we feel like we need to be 100%. We can check off everything, all the roles and responsibilities before we even pursue that position, right?
Yeah, we disqualify ourselves before anybody else does, right?
Yes. Well, a sponsor can look at us and say, no, she can do this. I know she can do it. And so, and a lot of men, as you know, they don't even have to check off anything, and they say, I can do it, you know? And so we as women need to learn how to raise our hand, but we also need mentors and sponsors, and we also need to serve as mentors and sponsors.
Absolutely. So let me add one more to the equation there. We also talk in our program about the importance of forming your own personal board of advisors. So, you know, Ramona, every company has a board, right? A board of directors. They're the senior people that look, you know, way ahead and provide guidance around strategy, around, you know, current trends, and their expertise helps the CEO make the best decisions possible. They also hold the CEO accountable. So I think it's another important step to take, especially early in your career, to have this idea that you are going to form your personal board of advisors, your kitchen cabinet, right? The people that are on your go-to list for, you know, testing out an idea, trying out, you know, what do you think about this? Or I'm going through this, what would you say? I think that board of advisors may be a combination of friends and mentors, but you want to have a diverse slate of people in that board. And this is what I mean. Of course, diversity, you know, different ethnicities, different gender, and so on. But you also want to have people who are maybe close to your age and people who are way ahead. I think we need to remind our communities that I think in Black and Brown communities, we are a multi-generational focused set of cultures. And we respect our grandparents, we respect our elders, we listen to the stories, and we hear, you know, the experiences and try to honor that. I believe that we need to do that in our board of advisors as well, to bring the perspective of others that may have seen the world very differently from where we are today. So, talking to those individuals on a regular basis is another way to make sure you're really being, thoughtful about how you prepare for your next adventure. So all of those factors, I wish someone had had the ability to share that with me when I was growing up and coming up in my career. I didn't have that. My parents were, my dad was a tool and die maker. My mom worked from home. And so I never heard stories about what to do when the boss is in town or how to manage your boss, right? If my father heard that term, he would laugh and say, "What do you mean managing your boss?" Ellos son los mayordomos, and he would have a very funny reaction to that. But that is, one of the luxuries of now I'm watching my son, who's 26, I'm able to give him some pointers about what he can do to navigate his career. And those are very different conversations than the ones I was able to have with my mom and dad. Yeah.
Thank you for that great advice. Each of us need to have a board of directors, and our directors need to be diverse. Diverse in terms of cultural and national backgrounds, diverse in terms of age, incorporate the elders into that board of directors. And when you think of it, I'm just thinking about my own life living in a small town. My grandfather was the first Black elected official in Brown County, Benny Houston. And when you were talking, I was thinking, he used to have all kinds of people coming over to the house. I'm over my grandparents' house, and they would come in, they would like almost, if you will, sit at his feet and listen. And I don't know what they were talking about, but I know it was serious conversations, and it was all kinds of people. And that would confide in him, including Henry B. Gonzalez would often call him. And so that just speaks to your point about including elders in the conversation, because they can give us advice and direction in ways, have an understanding in ways that we don't think of, And so thank you for sharing that diversity is not just about racial and cultural diversity, but also considering listening to the wisdom of the elders.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And even those who are not necessarily in your own career track can give you, other perspectives and other ways of seeing what's going on in your life. So as a whole, I think LatinaVIDA is making a dent in trying to change the conversation, create awareness about these factors that make a difference in people's careers. We're early in our game. We took a little break when my father had cancer a few years ago, so I couldn't do this work for a while. But right now, I'm really proud that we have not only had these workshops, but now we've gone virtual, and we created something called the LatinaVIDA Leadership Collective, and it's an online platform. And we are now able to organize small events, whether it's a podcast, broadcast for people, or, a chat, a town hall chat, or an online webinar, as I said. And I'm super excited about the potential because we've tried to make this place free of distractions that you might find in other platforms and free of the fear of getting your data stolen, all of that stuff that's going on and all of those different social media platforms. And we're trying to be very serious about, the nature of your work life is so impactful in the quality of life that you have. And I can't say this enough. I mean, a bad boss can literally kill you. A bad boss will cause you stress, anxiety, high blood pressure, poor eating habits, because you are in an environment with a bad boss that can be really toxic, right? So I think about a lot of our colleagues, our staff, or participants, I should say, who may not necessarily be in a corporate environment. Maybe they're in a small business somewhere. And after they come through our program, they realize, wow, there's a different way to see my work life. There's a different way to think about my career. And for me, that's a wonderful, outcome that we celebrate. And of course, we always celebrate when people write to us and say, because of the program, we applied for a new job, or we got promoted, or they went and talked to their boss about, another kind of project for themselves. All of that is wonderful. But we do reach some of those individuals who are working in small, businesses, and they may not have access to any kind of professional development. And so we think this is a wonderful way to spread information that I think is much needed in our community, so that people can take charge of their work life and have a quality experience that allows them to live to their full potential, whatever they might decide is their success story. We know some people want to be in the corporate C-suite, some people don't. Whatever that is, though, that you want to do, we hope that the content of the program empowers you to achieve that.
Thank you so much for sharing that information. Your work life does determine your quality of life. And I always say that work is very important to you personally, not just professionally, because most of us, what we aspire to do is to be happy and fulfilled, right? And so you have to be in work that you actually enjoy and that actually engages your talent and ability so that you're fulfilled. And that if you're not in a space and place that you love and engaged in the work that you want to do and surrounded by people who affirm who you are and support who you are, it can be toxic.
Amen.
Like you said, it can kill you because it destroys you inside out. And so I really appreciate hearing about LatinaVIDA and being able to share the work that you do so that we can get more Latinas engaged and knowledgeable about what they need to do in terms of being successful professionally. And as you have stated to me prior to this interview, that this organization is just not for women, it's also men are engaged too, because we need men who are supportive, right, of women, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share with you that when we first started doing this, we had a couple of women come with their daughters, which was wonderful. Then we had a couple come. Then we had, in a corporate environment, of course, we were asked, would you be willing to let men come? And we said, absolutely. And what we learned in doing that was that some of the men, of course, said, hey, this material is just as relevant for me as it is for the women in the room, because men of color have their own challenges and difficulty. And in many ways, we're thinking now of having a special portion of the program just for men who are there, because we want to honor what their specific experiences can be. But the beautiful thing that happened with the father-daughter team, the husband-wife, the other men, they came up and said things like, I hadn't thought about how much more I need to support my wife. Or, you're right, women often take on too much at home. I need to be better about sharing that burden with them. I know that we've heard this statistic long into our lives, because I've been on the planet 62 years now. We know that women have an overwhelming share of the responsibility for household maintenance, childcare, planning all of the meals, planning all of the stuff that goes on. And I got to tell you, that's an extra burden on a woman's career. It means you come home and you put in another 4 to 5 hours worth of work to get kids ready for getting their homework done, getting the meals done, whatever household issues might be going on. So when you've got that awareness of men in the room, that really elevates the conversation to a new level for them. And so we call them our male allies. We found a new term out there called manbassadors. They are ambassadors for women's rights and equity. And it starts at home. It's one thing if you go to work and say, oh, I'm a male ally. I'm going to be for women's rights. Okay, well, show it at home, right? Get out the vacuum cleaner and start vacuuming, right? Get the kids in the bath, get them to bed, help them with their homework, plan the meals for tomorrow, get the grocery list made, right? Can I go on? Mm-hmm. See, I know you resonate with this. I know the audience resonates because, and especially Latinas, and I want to say to my colleagues and friends in the African American community, women take on a lot in our communities. And we have to do so much to keep our families together, to put all of this together for our work life as well. So what a wonderful opportunity to bring the men into this and to have that honest conversation. We never put them on the spot or anything like that. But we just talk about the reality of what women are facing. And so it's great when a father starts thinking about his daughter, or a husband starts thinking about his wife, or, a son starts thinking about his mom. And we know that that's made for some really beautiful conversations. So I'm really proud that we have men and women. We also have people from every culture that have been through the program, because we've never said, it's just for one group of people. So it's great.
Well, thank you so much. So if people want to be involved with LatinaVIDA, is it an open group or do you have to be invited? Can you explain your process and your contact information as well?
Sure. The first thing is please visit our website. It's LatinaVIDA.org. We are about to put the link for the collective, so that will be right there, so you can just click on it and request to join. But in the meantime, you can always request to join at info@latinavida.org, and that will get you to our administrative services coordinator, and she will just give you an invite to get into the collective. But we'll have the link up there pretty soon. So once you're inside the collective, we've got topics for you to look at and browse, whether it's articles, TED Talks that we recommend. We are going to also be offering public versions of our Rise to the Top workshop. Right now, what we're doing is breaking it up into a series so that we can cover everything that we would normally cover in a full day. And we're going to have other workshops as well. One of the really hot topics that we've covered is imposter syndrome for women and men of color. And just briefly, what that means is that many of us, even with our PhDs, I know that you went through this as well because we've talked about it before, Ramona, we have all of our degrees and our experiences, and we still feel insecure. We still feel like, well, maybe people won't notice that I don't belong here. I'll just hide in the corner, right? I won't say anything so that they won't know, what I don't know. And of course, some of that is just coming from the trauma of, being a person of color and having so many microaggressions, micro inequities thrown at us, if not outright aggressions. And that eats at your self-confidence. It eats away at your sense of self-efficacy, right? And so we talk about that in the program, but now we've learned how much more people want to really try and tackle that. So we're creating a standalone workshop just about that topic. And I'd have to say, I'm glad that we're naming that beast, because it is something that can really hold you back. It can make you not want to apply for the job. It can make you be more, reticent to raise your hand for that special project. And of course, we know when you don't, do that, when you don't volunteer or lean in, as they say, you may not be noticed. You're not going to be visible. So imposter syndrome is just one of many workshops that I hope will be able to offer.
Yeah, that sounds great. I've been a part of several conversations over the last 2 or 3 months, not just conversations, but events, public events, national and international events, where the women were talking about imposter syndrome, that was one of the topics of conversation. And one of the things I read recently is that even Mrs. Michelle Obama suffered from imposter syndrome, and we all look up to her like she's the original queen, right? And we're like, we can't believe that she even suffered from imposter syndrome. And so that's a conversation that is much needed among women as well as among specifically women of color. And so it's good to hear that y'all have one track that's specifically focused on that. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today, Dr. Maria Hernandez, and we look forward to having you back and to continue to hear about the growth and development of LatinaVIDA. We encourage you all, the audience, if you want to become involved or a supporter of LatinaVIDA in any kind of way, please visit them at latinavida.org. And thank you very much. And thank you for sharing your story with us. And we appreciate you.
It's been an honor to be with you, Ramona. Thank you so much. And I hope the best for this show. You're empowering so many people. Thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Thank you. Today, we're talking to Dr. Maria Hernandez. Hi, Dr. Hernandez.
Hi, Dr. Houston.
And she's going to give us a strategy for college success. But first, Dr. Hernandez, can you tell us what school or schools you attended and what your majors were? And what one piece of advice would you give students that they can use as a strategy to succeed in college?
Absolutely, my pleasure. So I first attended Pasadena Community College for 2 years to get my undergrad. Then I graduated from Cal State Long Beach in Long Beach, California, with a degree in psychology. And from there, I went to the University of Texas at Austin for my PhD in community psychology. My tip for the day around college success is about working effectively with your professors. It's important for us to recognize they are there for you as a student. And when they say, come see me in my office hours, or come chat with me about a project, or seek me out about any questions you may have, take them up on that offer. Too often, I would see professors for their office hours and there was nobody there. I think that we really need to understand the power of creating a strong relationship with a professor. And it's not about, the proverbial kissing ass to basically, get a good grade. It's about making sure that you have a connection that might be the one to recommend you for, maybe another job, maybe grad school. Your professor has an enormous influence in your success in college. And you can create those positive relationships by meeting with them, talking to them, sharing ideas with them, and working with them directly.
Thank you so much for that advice. So students, you need to work effectively and build relationships with your professors. We know that professors are the ones who know about those experiential learning opportunities. They're the ones that write letters of recommendations. They're the ones that know about those professional and employment opportunities first. So you definitely need to build relationships with your professors in order so that they can help guide your educational and professional development. Thank you so much. That was great advice.
A special thank you to the incredible team of the Empowerment Zone. Terry Gully, theme song, NADWorks, digital support, and of course, our featured guest.
If you enjoyed my podcast, please subscribe. We are on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Be sure to rate us on Apple Podcasts too. Thank you for your continued support.